Okay, so in this video we're now going to show you how we set up the additional LAN or WANs that we've previously programmed. So this video follows on from the interface control video where we're going to set up, or where we have set up, the interface on the front panel of the actual controller itself. So basically what we're going to do now is, now the interface has been set up, I'm going to just quickly show you how you'll set up the additional LAN or WAN. So if you are setting up an additional LAN, then obviously you've got to make sure that the new subnet that you create is not going to clash with either the host, the main router, or the LAN 1 that's already in place in the controller. So looking down at the software, we'll go to Network and LAN, and once we click on LAN, you'll see here that there's now a second tab has appeared, because if you remember from the other video, we created LAN 2 with Ethernet port 3, and then in this menu here we're going to set the LAN 2 settings up. So you can see LAN 1 is there. Obviously we haven't changed anything with those settings, but if we click on LAN 2, you'll see the page is virtually identical, but obviously we're going to need to make some changes to this. Now you can use the same first number group as that's been used in LAN 1. So if you'd like to keep the 172, sort of a good format, then it's certainly possible to do that. So looking back here, I'm going to keep the 172, but the rest of it, of course, has to be different. So that's really important, because obviously the two LANs need to be independent from each other and therefore not clash. And of course, if you, like with other parts of the software, if you do something that the software won't allow, such as creating a LAN or a WAN clash, then of course it will tell you. So we're just going to insert, I'm going to use 172.15.0.1. Now the reason I've used that value is because this IP address has got to be the starting IP in this new LAN that we're going to create. Okay, so we're not actually going to change anything else on that page, which, if you remember from the other video, when we're setting up the LAN 1 and WAN 1, we haven't actually made any changes, but of course you could quite happily make a change there to the subnet should you need to. Make sure obviously you click save. It will go through a slightly more longer saving process, so don't worry, it'll tell you how it's doing, and then once it's done, then obviously LAN 2 settings will be created, and then of course any device that gets connected to LAN 2 will be given an IP address within this subnet or in this IP range. So for the WAN settings, obviously this may be dictated by whether you've got two lines from the same provider, or one line from one provider, one line from another provider. However, if you've got another provider that has a totally different subnet, then obviously the WAN settings will be dictated by the provider. So obviously go back to the original router or modem that's provided by the provider, and obviously use those credentials to set up the WAN settings. Things like the gateways and the DNS, again, the DNS can be set as we've set WAN 1, but again the gateway may be governed by the IP settings that you might need to put in from the additional provider. So if you've got two separate WANs and you've got two different providers coming in, for example, or at least the example we've used so far in this series of videos is your main WAN is coming in on 192.168.1, and then the starting IP is .1. Another favourite provider or common provider might be using, for example, 192.168.0. So obviously the WAN settings in WAN 2 would need to be set appropriate to that provider, and again you need to make sure that the fourth number group is going to be a unique, this device will be a unique client on that network. And again, those settings that we've put when we did the original WAN setup can just be mirrored with the gateway, the DNS settings that we've got in there as well. So hopefully that covers what you need for setting up additional LAN and WAN options. So don't forget to check out the other videos in the series on the ClearFlow controller, or have a look at antiference.co.uk for more information. So thank you.